أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is, in my opinion, one of the most important sessions of this conference. Here, we will be seeing by the examples and by the experience of the Muslim youth who have faced the challenge of the society and they have succeeded. My experience with the youth has been in the last 15 years has been nothing but positive. Our youth have not fought back, but they have also succeeded. You might hear from the prophets of doom and gloom that boy, our younger generations is going astray, how they are going to face the challenge of television, nudity, sex, gays, homosexual, and so on. But mashallah, our youth are succeeding in every field. They are not only succeeding in their educational fields, but they're also succeeding in the spiritual and the professional fields. Today, we will have 4 of the youth speakers, mashallah, and they will share their experiences, that what they have done and how they are succeeding. It will be my pleasure for the first speaker, Brother Mozen Asbahi. I saw him growing while he was 6 or 7 years old, and I saw the maturity he has gained in such a short time period. Although I might have been one of his teachers in the camps and in some conferences, but it's about time when I think that I have started learning from this youth. Let me introduce to you first speaker for today, Mozen Asbahi. Mozen has been always involved in the youth, in the MENA programs and other camp programs. He is now freshman at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and let's welcome him, Brother Mozen Asbahi.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. Sometimes I become disillusioned by fellow Muslims and communities everywhere by their misjudgment of priorities. You see, there is a grave crisis on the hands of all Muslim communities in North America, and that crisis is your children. There are many problems which we have to deal with growing up in North America, and among them is identity. Many of us ask, am I Arab? Am I American? Am I Muslim? Can I combine these 3? Where do I draw the lines? Where are my loyalties? And also, what difference does it make? Well, the answer to that is that it makes all the difference. I read something very interesting recently which deals with loyalties. The name of the article was Secular Education and Political Socialization of Muslim Children by Professor Hakim Rashid of Howard University. He discussed the need of the implementation of Islamic education, the Western secular system, and I'll quote from him, as a secular education system promotes loyalty to the nation as the highest good. Muslim children are in essence being forced to deny the veracity of the Quran and ignore its supremacy over any law or ideology imposed by the nation states, unquote. Thus, even at the elementary school level, our loyalties, or as Professor Rashid puts it, political socialization, is being determined. An excellent case in point is, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, etc. Other problems of Muslim youth include premarital relationships with the opposite sex, Muslim and or non-Muslim. I won't touch on this major problem because you'd need a whole conference to discuss it. But I will just say that, do you know that many of your daughters and sisters feel much more comfortable talking about their problems with non-Muslim guys, and that Muslim brothers feel much more comfortable talking to non-Muslim girls than they do with their own sisters? And do you know that non-Muslim girls throw themselves at Muslim guys all the time? Does your son have the faith and taqwa to not quote-unquote mess around? I hope so. Moving on, I'd like to discuss briefly something that many parents seem to be missing in North America, and they seem to be missing reality. Too many parents are trying to recreate Syria, Pakistan, Egypt, whatever country in their own homes. My dear brothers and sisters, I believe this is futile, bordering even on the edge of destructive. As you can see, assimilation into American life or Canadian life is a reality. Most of you have made the conscientious decision to immigrate here, and now you have to deal with this problem. And I plead to you to deal with this problem in wisdom and in patience. Assimilation in its totality and at face value is not bad and does not have to be feared. But now we have to be careful, and we need to know where to draw the lines. Again, when you draw the lines, please do it in patience and in wisdom. I'd like to refer to an article written by Mozen named Assimilation into American Life and Islamic Perspective. This was in the American Journal of Islamic Social Science. Some interesting points he makes is that Muslims should seek an interactive process of assimilation on the level of extrinsic cultural traits through a process of 6 filtration processes. Extrinsic cultural traits include such elements as dress, manners, patterns of emotional expression, language, diet, recreational patterns, art forms, and economic techniques. The 6 filtration processes are accepting, rejecting, seeking, restricting, appending, and supplementing. It would take too long to discuss each of these processes, except to say that here is where wisdom, patience, and common sense come into play. The major lines that need to be drawn with intrinsic cultural traits are the ones that deal with religious beliefs and practices, ethical values, and a sense of common past. This obviously is where we cannot accept the cultural norms of this country or Canada. This is where parents need to concentrate on building the youth's spirituality base and taqwa. When they have established that building, then the un-Islamic aspects of extrinsic cultural traits will be dealt with easily and can be dealt with easily. If I was to make a list and give it to parents as far as a few things that they need to keep in mind when trying to raise their kids in this country or in Canada, I would say 1, building the faith and taqwa is the most important thing, and they have to start from so young. And when they do that, they have to teach their youth the basics of this religion. I'm talking about the goals in life, heaven and hell, and the day of judgment. The second most important thing is to make sure that your children are with Muslim friends. That is where their key enjoyment and social activities are taking place. That is so important. If you did that, then 90% of all other problems will disappear. This is what I believe. Third thing is, what type of example are you setting for your own children? Sometimes you expect too much, but you don't show what you expect from your youth. That is wrong, and that is bad, and you're making make-believe, and it won't happen. Another thing is communication. Many Muslim families have such serious and strict families that there's no communication between the father, the son, or the mother, the daughter. And that, my friends, in North America will not work. Fifth thing is pride. A lot of Muslim youth have self-image that is poor. It is important for them to understand that they are truly they have a great heritage, and Muslims were very strong back in the days, and that too can be recreated, civilization of Muslims. So, those are just some key points that I wanted to make, and I hope that if I said anything good, that it is by Allah's blessing, and if I said anything wrong, it is my fault, for I'm only a man. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Mozen. I think this is my experience that most of the parents, they want their children to be perfect Muslims, but they don't themselves give the examples. I can tell you from some of the experiences within my own families that we tell our daughters and our sons what to do, and immediately when we leave this convention hall, we take our hijabs out, we take our everything out, we start talking exactly in a normal way. I wish whatever Brother Mozen had said, that parents would listen to it and they will start practicing what they preach. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never said a thing which he himself did not practice. I think without going any further, I would like to introduce to you a sister, Inayat Shahin. She has been MENA chairperson, and now she is senior in high school, and she is 17 years old. Sister Inayat Shahin.
Assalamu alaikum. Everyone says that you cannot understand or sympathize with a situation unless you have experienced it. And this is the situation that Muslim parents and Muslim youth are in right now. Muslim youth cannot relate to their parents for the reason that their parents were immigrants from another country, or they did not grow up as Muslims in this society. To grow up in this society is a very unique and difficult thing to do. Myself personally, I have gone through a lot, and I know every youth in this hall right now, or at the ISNA conference, has also gone through a lot. Parents, I know we have reiterated these points over and over again, but it's very important to understand the situation and the pressures that the youth face today in this society. One very, very strong pressure that is in society today is school and peers at school. They can either make, as they say, or break your reputation at school and how you get along with everybody and how sometimes if you have friends or not. Friends, if you don't go out and date, they can call you that you're gay or lesbian, and they don't just say it once. They keep on reiterating it, trying to make the youth go and do what they do. Also, fashion, clothes, they're so unfortunately, they're so very important to youth. And when parents say, oh, you have to be strong, you can't fall to their, every fashion that comes out, you can't always want Nikes, you can't always want this, you can't always want that. It's hard. You're talking to a person who has to go in front of people every single day of their lives and deal with these people and deal with their sneers and their remarks. It's very hard and it's very emotionally stressing. Also, another very important thing is that parents have to understand that their children cannot get an Islamic education from going to Sunday school once a week, or even going to an Islamic school 5 times a week. I go to an Islamic school myself, and I can tell you right now that not more than 20% of the girls there wear scarves. They teach an Islamic studies class every single day, 45 minutes about Islam, about Allah, about Quran, about Hadith. Everything. They say you have to wear a scarf, you say you have to pray. But since the kids do not see it at home from their parents, they don't do it themselves. I mean, once in a while there are exceptions, and alhamdulillah, a lot of my friends, parents who do not pray, they have started praying. Parents who do not wear hijab or do not cover properly, they have started. But this is a very small minority, unfortunately. Parents have to also understand that within the society, we get different values, or we're faced with different values. At least when we're back home, and I know from my own experience, when I go back home, there's some sense of Islam in tradition. And parents expect, or I don't know if they just assume, that we will pick this up here as well. But the traditions and the values that are presented in this society are everything that Islam says is wrong. And it's very hard for Muslim youth to be strong without the support of their parents. Now, like I stated before, it's very important that the parents, it starts with the parents. It's very important that the parents produce an Islamic environment at home. If the parents listen to music, then the kids will listen to music. If the parents listen to Quran, then the kids will listen to Quran. If the parents pray, then the kids will pray. If the parents, go out, then the kids will go out. It's very important that you provide a proper Islamic environment at home. They're not going to get it from anywhere else. Kids, even if they don't want to admit it, I'm talking about myself as well, look up to their parents and will most probably follow in the footsteps of their parents. And I don't want to put a very much burden on parents or this great responsibility, but it's there and it has to be taken upon yourselves to do something about it. Youth are faced with a lot of exciting and free and fun things to do in this society, or so-called fun things to do. And we as Muslim youth want if not to do those things, an alternative. And parents, you have to provide this for us. And different ways of providing this. I mean, one thing I think is very, very important is Mina. I mean, it provides a social atmosphere, an Islamic atmosphere, and an educational atmosphere. So parents, please encourage your kids to get involved in Mina, but don't leave it only up to Mina or the Sunday schools or even the week-long Islamic schools. You have to take the responsibility upon yourselves. You have to say, this is my kid, I'm responsible for him, and it's my duty to teach him Islam, nobody else. So please, I am imploring to all of you, please try to produce an Islamic environment at home. Try to encourage your kids to read Quran, to read Hadith, to read stories about the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also do them yourself so they can learn from by example. This is what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us an advice, and I think we should all take it. Assalamu alaikum.
Takbir! Takbir! I think there was a time that on this stage we used to expect that the people with the big beards and big college degrees and PhDs will be coming down here and telling us that we should be praying, we should be reading Quran and so on. But mashallah, for these youth who are here, they are the ones, they have learned what those scholars are saying, and they are putting in a very, very simple word. Let me tell you a very, very interesting experience which just happened to me only a couple of weeks ago. We had conducted a camp in Michigan, and out of about 40 girls who were in that camp, just with the simple peer pressures, some of them were already wearing hijab, but 12 of them decided, they made a pledge with each other that they will never take their hijab out. If really you want to practice your Islam, you have to go to Islamic activities where you can meet your other Muslim brothers and sisters. And like Brother Mozen was already saying it, that you have to get involved and send your children where their Muslim friends are. Don't send them to the Christians and the Jews' birthday parties. Don't send them to their Christmas parties, but try to get them involved into the Muslim activities. I'm supposed to be moderator, not making the commentary, but there is time is allowing me to do that. Our next speaker, mashallah, he has grown up a little bit more older than the two predecessors. Mashallah, he has graduated from the medical school this year. He has grown up in North America, and now he is doing the internship in surgery in Canada. So I would introduce Jawad Shah to come here and speak. Jawad Shah.
Assalamu alaikum. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن سيدنا محمد رسول الله فتح الله به قلوبا غلفا وآذانا صما وأعينا عميا صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن دعا بدعوته بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد إن الله تعالى created the universe, and there's little doubt in that as an absolute fact. But within his creation he made certain choices, and the very best of angels he chose Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. And the very best of lands in all of earth, he chose Mecca al-Mukarramah. The very best of months, he chose Ramadan, and the very best of nights, he chose Laylatul Qadr. And the very best of the nations, he chose you, لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا, in order that you may be witnesses over all mankind, and in order that the Prophet may be a witness over you. But further than that, within the Ummah, the Prophet and Allah has assigned certain duties. And that is the question before us today. What is the challenge of the specific segment of society we are discussing, the youth? There's little doubt that one of our main objectives is to call people to Allah. There's no question about that. But this is a small part of our da'wah. And what we have to understand in a broader sense is what is the challenge of the wider ummah and what place does the youth play in that challenge. Sharia after Sharia, minhaj after minhaj, prophet after prophet was sent down for one specific purpose. Again and again and again. And it was much more all-comprehensive than simply calling to Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He described that purpose in a very important ayah in Surah Al-Hadid. He said, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That verily, we have sent down messengers, we have sent down messenger after messenger after messenger, with clear signs, with the books and the balance, in order for one purpose, to allow mankind to stand up in justice. A very high, a very noble purpose. The Prophet ﷺ, his entire life, was moving towards a state of perfection within his community. So much so that when that final ayah came down, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. That today, Allah said, I have perfected your religion. Today, I have perfected and completed my favor over you, and I've chosen Islam as your religion. That when that time came, he achieved the goal which he was sent for, and that was absolute perfection within the society. The question then before the youth is, specifically, what responsibilities do we have in moving towards that state of perfection? And more specifically, what responsibility do the youth in the 20th century and here in North America have towards their ummah? And from that point, we can go to the question of the challenges that they face while they grow up. If we are to move towards a state of perfection, I think we have to recognize we don't have that state right now. We don't have a state of perfection within the ummah. We have people within this ummah who are among the very richest people on the earth. We have some of the most important resources that the world needs today, oil. We have land more than any other religion on earth. We have greater numbers than any other religion on earth. Yet still, we're in a state of denigration. Still people step on us, and still we don't fulfill our duties. So obviously, these elements aren't what we need. If we need guidance, we go to the Quran, and the Quran describes for us a situation very similar to what we're in today. It describes in the Battle of Hunayn a very significant problem which occurred. The Muslims, they had all sorts of weapons for the first time. They were more in number, they were stronger, and they thought for sure that they would win that war. And Allah describes what happens in the Quran saying, لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَوَاتِنَ كَثِيرًا وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ فَلَمْ تُغْنِ عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. That verily we helped you in many a battlefield. And on the day of Hunayn, when your great numbers were a source of elation to you, you're happy, you had all this power. So much so that you thought for sure you'd win. وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ. And the entire earth came as a source of constriction upon you, and then you turned back and ran away. You left your responsibilities, you left the Maidan, you left your prophet, you left the companions, you left the message. So what are the elements of change? How can we change this situation? I submit that there are three essential elements which are needed for success. And this is the responsibility of every youth to have within themselves. And this is the challenge that they face. They need conviction, number one. Number two, they need brotherhood and sisterhood. And number three, they need power. Each of these things demand a small amount of elaboration. First of all, conviction. Everything one does in life is based upon conviction, Muslim or non-Muslim. Everything they do in life is based upon conviction. If you are a person whose moral system says to him that money is a very important thing in life, and I was to tell you that just outside in the hall there's $1 million bundles waiting for anyone who'd like to go there and get them, if you were convinced of what I said, you'd go out there and you'd pick up your bundle. Everything in life is based upon some sort of conviction. In Islam, we call that conviction iman. It's a very beautiful thing. But what is conviction based upon? Conviction is based on nothing less than knowledge. And that is the theme of this entire conference. All sources of knowledge can be categorized into only three. There's logic, there's observation, and there's information. This demands, I guess, a whole separate discussion, but suffice it to say that of all these sources of knowledge, information is the most important. Logic and reason is used to verify these sources. It's very, very important for the Muslim youth to gain knowledge in order that their conviction goes up, their iman goes higher and higher. This is their first responsibility. The very, very first word of creation, first word of revelation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, what was it? Iqra. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created. And upon that, everything else is built. I remember, just to share a little bit about my own community, we have some very sincere younger people in our community, brothers and sisters, extremely sincere. I've learned a lot from them. And I remember some of the younger brothers, now they're a bit older, they're older teens, and they had this desire to learn a lot. And one time when they were younger, they organized a sleepover in the masjid, i'tikaf, and there was no one else to lead, so they thought, well, one of us should lead. You know, we're praying in the night and so on, very nice thing. And we'll lead, and everyone will take their turn. So they chose one person who they felt may know a little bit more Quran than the rest. So as he was reciting, he came to a point where he sort of forgot the next ayah. And no one, of course, among the followers, none of them knew what the ayah was, and they didn't know what to do. And he didn't know what to do either, so he just stayed silent and tried a few times, and then just stopped for a while. Until finally one of the brothers, who was, very piously praying behind him, finally he said, "New surah." So you see, these brothers, they came from that stage. This is kind of a funny story, but anyways, they went from that stage to a point now where these same brothers are deep in the study of the principles of fiqh, usul al-fiqh. MashaAllah. I hope that a lot of youth, or more youth, can take that initiative. So that's the first and foremost responsibility and challenge of the Muslim youth. The second very important challenge is one of brotherhood and sisterhood. And like the sister mentioned and the brother mentioned, Mina is doing a fantastic job in that. I've seen people come from Mina conventions and conferences, and they have all sorts of new friendships and ties. And there's a network that's building. Whether or not you know it, there's a network that's building on the underground all over this country and all over this continent. And inshallah, I hope, in 5 or 10 years, when things come to fruition, these people will take over, and inshallah, they'll be a source of light for the entire ummah. This network is very important and must continually be built. Brotherhood is a very sweet thing. I keep saying brotherhood, but I hope you know brotherhood and sisterhood. It's a very sweet thing, because the way that the Quran describes the brotherhood that was built by the Prophet ﷺ, it's something that is unimaginable. The feeling that you get when you know that someone's ready to defend you no matter what. The feeling you get when you know that if you're in trouble, that person will be at your side and he'll never leave your side. This was the type of brotherhood that the Prophet built, and the Quran describes that brotherhood. So much so that the Prophet or Allah had to restrict people from being too generous to their brothers. In the Quran, it describes the first society, the first perfect society, saying, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. That these people, they used to prefer their brothers and their sisters to themselves, even if it would hurt their own persons. Brotherhood's a very, very important thing. All of us have seen what's happening in Bosnia. All of us have seen the little children in Palestine pelting these Israeli soldiers with rocks. Those are our brothers, those are our sisters. Everything that happens to them happens to us too, and that's the feeling that has to be built within ourselves. The third, very important, and I think perhaps maybe the most neglected aspect of success and change, and the challenge, is called al-quwwa, power. The truth cannot be propagated without power. You don't have strength to protect yourself. You don't have strength to propagate. You won't be able to do it, no matter how great your message is. What I mean by strength is something much broader than just iman. I mean economic strength. I mean strength in terms of money. I mean weapons. I mean everything. And it's a challenge for the Muslim youth, I believe, to go to the very highest level in any field of study. If you reach a position where you are over top of people rather than subservient to them, believe me, the amount of change you can do is much, much more. I refer you to this story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in the Quran. But in one specific verse, and I have no qualms in saying this, though maybe I shouldn't say it here, but we also have to have physical strength in terms of military strength. And the youth should not take this, especially the brothers, they shouldn't take it secondarily. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught that. The Quran said that. وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ وَمِنْ رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. Prepare yourselves. Get ready. Is it so unreasonable for us to think that one day, as youth, that one day we wouldn't be in Palestine fighting? I think that the youth have to start understanding that their responsibilities are very great. The first ayah that I quoted very clearly stated that our responsibilities are much beyond even the ummah. The responsibility we have is to take care of the entire earth. The entire earth is our responsibility. It says in this specific ayah that one should prepare himself as much as he's able to the extent of his abilities. And if I could just digress a little bit, Afghanistan is one of those examples where people just prepared up to their abilities and see what the result was. I remember in the very beginning of the war, Newsweek magazine, the late 70s, very sarcastically mentioned a story about the Mujahideen. They said that the Mujahideen of Afghanistan were seen circumambulating around the masajid of Pakistan in an attempt to pay for the purchase of 20,000 knives. 20,000 knives. They're going to take on the Russian bear with knives. They're going to take on the tanks and the warplanes and all the fancy weapons with some knives. But something was inside their heart, and they remembered that ayah from the Quran saying that prepare yourselves as much as you're able to. Karate, taekwondo, knives, whatever. Prepare yourself as much as you're able to, and be ready. And that's what they were. They were ready. And they understood exactly what their responsibilities were, and finally they fulfilled them by casting that Russian bear aside, destroying that entire coalition of countries, and finally putting the stamp of death on communism itself because of their efforts. And look how they started. Now these three things, I'm sure that I'm going over time, these three things are very, very important, and they have to be gathered within ourselves. But is this something which I personally elucidated myself? I came to this conclusion sitting down at night and saying, well, these are the three things that I think will be the remedy of the ummah. Is this what the youth have to be, is this the challenge which the youth face? I refer you again to one specific story. And it's a date that I hope that every youth has etched deep inside their hearts. The date is February 12th, 1949. Does any of you guys know what happened on that day? Does anyone know? I was talking to some brothers down here before. On that specific day, I take you to Rome, Italy. And I report this story on the authority of Sheikh Abdul Hamid Kishk. In Rome, Italy, he narrates that one of his friends was there on that specific night. And then, deep in the night, they heard the bells ringing and ringing deep in the night. And he started to wonder, what is this? Why this celebration all of a sudden? And he went down and he started asking around. And people were dancing in the streets. There was all sorts of diplomats shaking hands and hugging. What was it that happened on this night that brought about this amount of rejoicement? So he stopped the man and he asked him, and he said, well, why all this partying? And the man told him, haven't you heard the news? Hassan al-Banna has been cut down in the streets of Cairo, and we are tasting the sweet feeling of joy and success. Imam Hassan al-Banna was the one who elucidated these principles. Do you know who Imam Hassan al-Banna was? He was a man who taught Islam to be a deenun kamilun, a complete religion, a complete way of life. He taught that Islam was not just a religion, but a deen and a dawla. Aqidatun wa sharia, sayfun wa mushaf, ibadatun wa qiyada, salamun wa islamun. He taught it to be everything. And that was why he was cut down. If you'd like to understand what was the basis of his elucidation, then again I take you back to Ismailiyya, 1928 Egypt, when Hassan al-Banna was a 22-year-old young man. He looked at the Ummah, he looked at Palestine, he looked all across the Ummah, and he was in a state of deep depression. Finally, he stood up in that small population center in Ismailiyya in Egypt, and he called out to those Muslims that stood out before him, and to all the Muslims across the Ummah. He looked at them and he took the Quran, the Mus'haf of the Quran, high up in his right hand, and he yelled out to them, Ayyuhan nas, at-tariq ha huna. At-tariq ha huna. This is the way. This is the only way. I had the opportunity, and I'm certainly not proud of it, to go to Palestine, West Bank. And I've said this story many times to the youth, but it hurts me still when I hear it, when I think of it. I was in Masjid al-Aqsa after going to the West Bank and seeing the way that our brothers and sisters are treated there. I saw our little brothers throwing rocks at someone they suspected of being a spy. I saw a lady who came to me with pictures of her daughter who was shot in the head because she broke a curfew 10 feet outside of her house. I saw a man who told me a story of how the Israeli soldiers came in, and he showed me on the walls of his house all sorts of flags and the Israeli flags painted, and he showed me the knife marks on his child, which was a 3-month-old baby, just because someone was throwing rocks from the roof of this person's house. I saw all of that. It doesn't make me proud. When I went back to Masjid al-Aqsa, I prayed to Allah, and I asked Him, what is the solution? And in Masjid al-Aqsa, there's one beautiful thing that's happening. Every day after Asr prayer, one of the youth stands up and he prays, and he gives a speech. Beautiful speeches, fiery speeches, not necessarily based on a lot of knowledge, but based upon what they feel, what they're feeling. And one person, I still remember this brother. I went to him after his speech. In his speech, he said that he gave up on everyone. He gave up on all those Muslims who were promising to help our brothers and our sisters and so on. He was very, very upset, giving his own personal account. Very, very upset. And in the end, he said, I trust now on no one but Allah, and that's who I take with me when I go out to fight. So I grabbed that brother afterwards, and I took him aside, and I hugged him, and I reminded him of a verse in the Quran that I think all the youth should remember. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Don't fear, don't grieve, don't be sad, because verily, 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 if you are believers, you are on top. You are the successful. Inshallah, we hope that's what happens with us. Now, the question, again, I'm over time, I'm sorry brother, I'll finish this off, is how is this change going to come about? Does this mean that 1 billion Muslims across the globe should get these 3 elements inside of them? Iman and brotherhood and quwwah? Is that the necessary solution? That 1 billion all of a sudden, great Muslims, going praying all the time, everyone wearing hijab, and all of a sudden that's it, everything is going to change like that? 1 billion Muslims do that and then the change comes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is much greater than that. And we go back to the plains of Hunayn and we find out that the Prophet ﷺ and the companions and the believers, they never lost the war. Yes, the Muslims were running away. Yes, they didn't recognize or observe their responsibilities, but they didn't lose. And that's described in the next ayah. Allah says inside the Quran, ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَنزَلَ جُنُودًا لَمْ تَرَوْهَا وَعَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The only thing that was needed was that a small group of people, being the example, would turn around. And on that specific day, when all the Muslims were running away and turning their backs and leaving their Prophet and leaving their responsibility, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went forward. And around him, the companions, the very good believers, they went forward because they'd never leave his side. No matter what anyone else said, they went forward while everyone else went back. And as the Prophet went forward in his fight alone with this group of people, the Muslims checked their run, and they looked at these individuals, and they saw what they were doing, and they turned around and they too ran back, saying, Labbaik, Labbaik, wa sa'adaik, wal khayru kulluhu fi yadaik, coming back, running and helping their Prophet. And in the end, they won. They achieved everything that they were supposed to achieve. And that is the challenge the Muslim youth face, to be that specific example. Brothers and sisters, dear youth, we face a very gigantic challenge. And we are in need of a generation of people who recognize and remember their responsibilities, who rally around the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are in need of a generation of individuals who rise up in the night and they pray, and during the day they do good deeds. We are in need of a generation of people who don't bicker over trivial issues, but look at the further, or the utmost goal, the highest goal, and continue to strive and struggle for achieving that goal. We are in need of a group of individuals who begin to emulate the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in order that perhaps we may be that generation. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. I say these words and ask Allah to forgive me.
Let's hear it a little bit louder. Let's hear this. Takbir! Takbir! Jazakallahu bikhair. Brother Jawad Shah has given us three very important points. First and foremost thing is to conviction to our aqidah, our religion, our belief, and our faith. And second thing is the brotherhood and the sisterhood. I will not forget that about sisterhood. And the third is the empowerment, that we have to get ready, be prepared. Before we are attacked, we should be ready to defend ourselves. MashaAllah, very nice work. Is Sister Noura Shamma is here? If Sister Noura Shamma is not here, then we will have the ISNA vision program, and then we will have question and answer with this youth, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to On Site. Inshallah, all of you are enjoying the convention. These conventions are very much a family affair, featuring activities for youth and young children in parallel with the main program. Ahmed Zwink has been checking out the activities of the Muslim youth of North America.
MENA, the Muslim Youth of North America, is holding its 8th annual summer conference here in Kansas City, Missouri. MENA is an organization for youth ages 12 through 18, which helps to provide leadership skills and instill a high Islamic commitment. It's also a great place to renew your ties of brotherhood and sisterhood.
In every single camp or conference, there's always this Islamic atmosphere of brotherhood and sisterhood.
MENA is not all work and no play. Halal entertainment plays its part too.
Well, inshallah, we're going to have the usual famous MENA entertainment, which usually draws a big MENA crowd and also some ISNA parents. We're going to have the usual skits and songs. This year we want to take the opportunity to promote our new MENA rap tape.
For ISNA Vision, I'm Ahmed Zwink, on site.
As Muslims settle in North America in increasing numbers, a distinct North American Muslim culture is bound to emerge. Questions arise as to whether what is American can also be within the bounds of Islam. Take music, for instance.
Music. It's a part of our daily lives. From the time we wake up until the time we go to sleep at night, Muslims in America ask themselves whether music and Islam are compatible.
What impact do you feel that music has on American society? And is it positive or negative?
Music is more or less a positive thing because it helps shape society, you know? It's part of the culture. Most people grow up with it in their homes and spend a lot of time involved in some way or another in music.
Musics have different impacts, but like rap music, I think, is a way for people to voice their opinions and to try to make a change in society.
A lot of the youth in America listen to lots of music, and they will do what music says. Like if in videos they dress a certain way, then the kids want to be like the musicians.
I think music is a powerful tool for getting any type of message across. One example of that would be a message against black-on-black violence.
What influence do you feel that music has on the Muslim communities?
As long as it's positive, it has a good impact. But if it's negative, we won't even buy it or associate, listen to it, or do anything that promotes it in any kind of way.
I think that it has a tendency sometimes, if you get too involved in music, to take you away from the actual practice of your daily practice of your religion.
I don't think that it has a great impact on the community, because the sisters that I know, like myself, will allow their children to watch music videos.
Well, since Muslims, they don't need focus stuff, I don't think they should listen to raps.
Do you think that Muslims should get involved in music and writing it and recording it, or do you think it's just a waste of time?
If they wanted to.
It could be a very good dawah tool, because all types of people and people of all ages listen to music, and we could tell the truth about Islam through music.
I definitely think that Muslims should get more involved in music. If there are more Muslims on the music scene, then I think that the message of Islam would be more people will understand the message of Islam, because I definitely think that we need to put our message out there.
On the question of music, we have to start first by referring to the hadith of
Scholar Jamal Badawi refers to the Prophet's opinion on music.
That music per se was not regarded as unlawful, for he allowed the use of a daf, which is something like a drum, in marriages or other happy occasions like festivals. Some jurists have been on the more cautious and stricter side by really encouraging very much the engagement of music. Some made a distinction between string instruments and other instruments. On the other side, we find also some jurists who were not as strict with respect to music, but within a particular qualification. The best reference I find that youth can refer to in this country is the book called The Lawful and Unlawful in Islam by Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, a prominent Islamic scholar. There is a section there, and the essence of his argument, after discussing the evidence provided in hadith, is that music is permissible provided that it would not be accompanied by any vulgar or inappropriate words from an Islamic standpoint, provided that it is not accompanied by other evils like drinking or dancing or similar kind of thing that normally goes with music, that it is the type of music that does not arouse in the person, certain attitudes which are not very commendable. In other words, he speaks about maybe a sort of softer music that might make the person relax for the sake, not of obsession, but to refresh oneself to do their work and their activities. But the honest question that I'd like to pose here really, and each person can answer in his or her own conscience, if you look carefully at those qualifications, how much of the music available now in North America meet those criteria? And I do believe that once the youth deepen their commitment to Allah, they will find lots of good substitutes. There are lots of other chants in various Islamic languages, even including English, by the way.
Well, it seems like we have quite a variety of opinions here. Music is something which can take up a lot of time, so we as Muslims should always look at the positive things of anything, and always remember the golden rule of moderation in Islam in anything you do. For ISNA Vision, this is Altaf Qasruddin.
More and more Muslim women enter the workplace every day. Their hijab always makes a statement and usually causes a reaction.
As more and more young Muslim women are entering the workforce, they have to deal with the challenges of practicing Islam while pursuing their careers.
Noreen Ahmadullah is a community project worker. She deals with groups that have received funding for AIDS education. As a Muslim woman in a non-Islamic environment, she has to explain her beliefs and values to the people she works with.
Noreen, what was the biggest challenge you faced when you first started working here?
Okay, when I first started out, I knew that I was going to be dealing with some gay and lesbian groups. And I was really worried that because Islam prohibits homosexuality, somehow my disgust or repulsion for them would show out in my work or in my report. But alhamdulillah, I realized early on that it wasn't up to me to judge them, it was up to Allah.
How do you explain wearing hijab at the workplace for non-Muslims?
Well, first of all, hijab gives Muslim women dignity, and it commands respect out of the men, so that the women are not treated as sex objects, but as opposed to that, they are treated based on their intellectual abilities. The hijab also gives the woman individuality, so that she stands out in a crowd, and that people take interest for her. And when people take interest, people start asking questions about Islam, and so that's a great method of dawah.
But it's not just the society Muslim women have to deal with. Many cultural barriers make it very difficult for Muslim women to practice religion within their own homes.
Nahid Mustafa wants to become a journalist. This fall, she was accepted into the journalism program at Ryerson Polytechnical Institute. She's had to deal with cultural misconceptions since she started to wear hijab last year.
The first question that I got was, is this permanent? So that sort of gives you an idea about how people were treating it, in the sense that I think part of them hoped that it wasn't permanent, just to, I don't know why, but for me, I was sort of hoping to get a lot of support, and I didn't really find too much support in my own community.
Do people think that you going to school and becoming a journalist is something that's difficult to do as a practicing Muslim woman?
A lot of Muslim women who are academics in the Toronto area tell me that I was holding myself back by practicing Islam, and that I was just promoting stereotypes about Muslim women, and so in essence I was holding other Muslim women back. And my response to them was, if I'm doing something for the sake of Allah, why would Allah desert me when I need Him the most? And if other women are so weak that by my doing something I'm holding them back, it has nothing to do with me, that has to do with them. And it was really difficult because in that sense I was seeing that the non-Muslims would go to these particular Muslim women to talk about Islam, and these women were not at all pro-Islam. I mean, they felt it was oppressive, it was, totally holding them back, and that obviously showed they knew nothing about it. And yet they're probably the ones who would be seen as, role models and the ones to talk to about this particular subject.
With all the challenges young Muslim sisters face, where do we turn to for advice? To our older, yet wiser Muslim sisters.
I want to sort of alleviate any concerns that Muslim women who want to become professionals might have before they become professionals, because I don't really want girls to be so scared of what it's going to be like wearing a headscarf or representing yourself as it's really carrying yourself like an ambassador of Islam in the workplace. And are you so scared of accepting this responsibility that you don't want to do it? Well, my message to them is no, it's not difficult at all.
Okay, what would be your advice to young Muslim women who are wearing hijab, who are now entering the professional circles?
To be steadfast in their faith and to be very confident of themselves and what they believe in. Sometimes life can become very difficult, but with perseverance and with hard work. Well, I must point out that a Muslim woman with a headscarf normally would have to work harder than anyone else to prove her capabilities. But that is a fact that we have to accept. And once they have accepted you, you are not just accepted, you are respected.
As Muslim women play a larger role in both Muslim and non-Muslim societies, we have to learn from one another. Within each of our communities, we should set up support groups so we can share our experiences and to show each other that yes, there is life after hijab. I'm Zarka Nawaz for ISNA Vision.
That's all we have for now. We'll see you again soon, inshallah. For On Site, I'm Tariq Hashim. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum again. The program you just saw has been produced by the Muslim youth, and mashallah, our sisters in hijab, they can be on television and mashallah still look good. And it will be just a matter of time when they will be replacing Peter Jennings and Barbara Walter on the television, inshallah. This is a time for the question and answers. Communication is a two-way street. It is not a one-way street. Our youth have spoken. Now it is a turn for the parents and the children to get a feedback from these two youth. Brother Mozen Asbahi, he had to leave because he had to catch a plane back to Detroit. But these two youth are ready and they will try their best to answer your questions. Can I request that the brothers youth at that side and sisters on this side, and sure, parents would like to get a feedback that how they can help the children and how they can help themselves. So parents are welcome, but please give the preference first if the youth want to come forward and ask the question and answers. Go ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khurshid Ahmad Malik. I have a very little question, but I have a little comment which maybe the moderator would not appreciate. While he was discussing about some stories about having the children go to those parties, I wish he would have not said that don't go to the parties of Christians or Jews, because tell that don't go to those parties where ill manners are practiced. And that is very common in our Muslim community and our own families. Instead of pointing out the other religion, I think we should avoid those kind of words. And I'm very proud of the presentation of all the children, all the youth who have been on the podium, and I feel like if I get a chance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be born again and become one of them, I would like to pray for that. Thank you.
Jazakallahu khair, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Akram Mahmoud. I came here when I was just past a few years, to a couple of years after I was a teenager. And one of the things we faced at the time is the thing those young men and women are facing now. And I felt what they were saying. And on top of that was the homesickness, because we didn't have our parents or our families here. And I feel very, very much that I learned from these young men and women. But there are 2 points I'd like to make for which they might benefit from. One thing is that comes with knowledge, which the brother have mentioned, and it comes for the female side of our young men and women, which is that they must understand there is also their private life, which is for instance, fashions, because we are human beings and there are things that we like, that they are not forbidden out of these things that they might like, and they can practice within their private, home or something. The other thing is about, especially for the young men and women, is we have to have a goal in our life, which it took me through a very hard period when I came in, which is it's very right now we are involved in Islam, and it could be da'wah, and this is one of the things we did before, and it took us from many things that were very unfavorable to Islam, very unacceptable at the time, where Islam was not as common as it's today. in this society. And I thank you very much, and Allah wafaqakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, next comments, questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am a sort of older version of the youth that were on the podium today, and in the sense that I grew up here in America quite a bit earlier than most of the other youth that we've been hearing from. What I'd like to say are some of my reflections about where youth can fit in and what their role can be in Muslim communities. One of the things that I think is very much needed is for masjids to give youth an opportunity to contribute in all levels of activities, including Jummah khutbahs, learning how to do the nikah ceremonies, funerals, counseling, dawah, and social service. One of the most important things that are needed for these kind of activities is training. Youth often feel a lack of confidence and a lack of knowledge to perform these duties and responsibilities, and I see a need for specific opportunities to give youth a chance to participate, to learn, and to advance their skills in these areas. A second area that is very important is volunteerism and care and concern. Most of the youth are going through very serious identity problems, and they often need a good support group. If youth are not concerned about their other members of the community and willing to contribute their time and efforts, there will really be no support group that is available for the youth to go to. The youth need other youth to help them, to counsel them, and to help them through some of the difficult times in their life. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. I don't think you want the answers right, so comments, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I do have some points to mention here. I'd like to start with emphasizing on categories of knowledge. Brother Jawad mentioned categories of knowledge, but I'd like to add to that the viewpoint of Islam about knowledge and how it is categorized. That stirs a problem that is apparent in the societies, the Muslim societies outside of the Islamic countries, where traditions sometimes would help in abiding by the Islamic law. What I mean to say is that knowledge is categorized in Islam as fard, obligatory, fard kifaya, mubah, and mamnu'. So fard, which is al-ilm al-shar'i, it's knowledge about sharia. It is obligatory upon each and every one of us. And especially for parents, we know their crucial role in bringing up children. If you don't have, you cannot give what you don't have. So you have to understand Islam fully to practice it and also to pass it to your children and to your other brothers. I have some comments concerning our moderator here. I add my voice to the previous brother who mentioned avoiding to point religions when a person is giving advice concerning parties and others. And also, I kind of understood that when you said good things about our eloquent panel here being young, and those young at heart too, you said big beards. I'd rather not. It's a sunnah by the Prophet ﷺ, and it shouldn't be ridiculed in such a way. Also, after that interesting episode about music, that is one interesting episode actually. I wanted to say, when you said we see our sisters in hijab on television and they still look good, here we are missing the point of hijab. It's not to make them look ugly. It's just to limit the point of attracting attention from others. So for those who have who are sick in their hearts, who have marad fi qulubihim, it's better. So as we all know, Islam is a preventive religion. It doesn't wait for the problem to occur. No, it cuts ways before it does. Jazakumullah khair.
MashaAllah. I think that I spoke a couple of times, and let me give you my own experience. I shouldn't be spending time on it, but it will be very short. It's my own personal experience in Metro Detroit area where I live, that in one of the parties, in the American parties, it was in a very nice home, and the older brothers, he put the alcohol in the fruit punch, and everybody in the party got drunk. That's one experience. Second experience is there was a sleepover. It was between the Americans themselves, and the girl was kidnapped and she was killed from the birthday party. There are so many experiences that if those children are not under your control at that time, you might lose them. My intent was not to avoid the contact with the Americans. We do all the time. With non-Muslims, we should not be avoiding the contact, but they should be under the supervisions. And when I was saying it, the preference should be given to the Muslims' homes than to Christians' home. I hope Brother Khurshid Malik does not misunderstand my comments.
Sure. If you ask my personal opinion, I'd say I'm against going to such parties 100%. So it doesn't mean that I'm saying that to...
Jazakallah.
Well, yeah.
I think any sisters wanted to say anything? Huh?
Sure. Yeah. There's so much interference here. I'm having difficulty hearing, but the point was made about knowledge and its importance and so on. I think that I keep addressing you all as if you're all youth, But we have the coolest religion in the world. Like really, the coolest people in the world are Muslims. Believe me, you just name them off: Malcolm X, Hassan al-Banna, Sayyid Qutb. Coolest people in the world. I mean, these people, they stand up for justice. They fight for truth, And it's all based upon knowledge, their understanding. We have a very great religion. And if the youth can come to understand that, they're going to do and achieve great things. There's no question about it. And it's a question of having heroes as well. Like, who are the heroes of the youth? I mean, these people are people who are interested in knowledge and understanding. Who are the heroes of this society? Like, there's this guy, what's his name, MC Hammer? You see the pants that guy? Well, maybe that's... I mean, the heroes of this society are a joke, MC Hammer and I don't know who else there is, Michael Jackson, who knows what he is, And these are the heroes of the society, and people who, like, if you start emulating those people, you become like them. Like, if you really like them, then you start behaving like them, start getting haircuts like them, and then, So it's a question of heroes as well. Like, we should try and understand who it is that brought this religion to us, and what type of individuals they are. And when you stand up to pray, whether at McDonald's or on the side of a street or wherever, you stand up proud because you're a Muslim. And it's all, again, a question of knowledge.
Brother Qadi, would you be nice enough to give sister permission first? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asmawati. I just would like to add some more comments, or maybe just a suggestion. There are four factors that we would like to have to build up the relationship between the children and the parents. The first, that we have to establish the deep and profound relationship between the parents and the children. How we can make it like that? We have to be able to listen to the children, so the children will listen to us too. So when the children listen to the parent, we have to listen that that's the way, whatever the parent says is the way the parents shows their love to us. And whenever the parents say and the children say something to the parent must be able to listen to the children from the point what they would like to have. And the second is to have the children build their self-confidence. It's very important that to have the self-confidence in deciding what they want to have, what they want to be. And the third is self-growth. It's very important, because based on this, they're really knowing where they want to go, what they want to decide for themselves and for their future. The fourth is the communication. The communication must be very open communication, understanding. I think that's all I can say. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, we'll have time for 2 more questions. We will finish it exactly at 4:15. So, Brother Qadi.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Ahmad al-Qadi. There's something puzzling me. I don't know how I became a grandparent while I still feel and often think as a teenager. Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. I'm very proud of our youth and of MENA in spite of the deficiencies the individual youth and MENA has. But I do have my deficiencies, and I can tell you, everyone in this room, although I don't know them personally, they have the deficiencies. How can I be so sure? Because perfection is for Allah alone. Does this mean that doesn't make any difference since all have deficiencies? There is a big difference between the good and the bad and the winner and the failure. The difference is the good and the winner is willing to improve, is willing to accept advice and get more knowledge, and first of all is always seeking help from Allah to get over his or her deficiency. And that's what I see in our good Muslim youth and in our MENA. Second, I have an advice to the parents. It is true and basic and essential, fundamental that they give advice, guidance, warning, and leadership to their children. And as we heard from Brother Shakir said this morning, leadership is to give example, also take them by the hand. As long as they are below age of puberty, that's simple. Once they are teenagers or older, and that's the session for teenagers, as long as they are doing this leadership, including taking them by the hand, is tolerated, is accepted, and the sons and daughters, not children anymore, are responding, that's fine. But the problem is when they find that it is not working and the parents become frustrated. My advice to them is take your hands off and refer them to someone who can do a better job. And many times parents cannot imagine that anybody else other than them, the loving parents, can do a better job. There is, although many times it sounds like we doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take care of these rebellious youth better than we do. And that's only in situations where what we do is not working anymore. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be referred to and He can take care of them. If they don't take their hands off at this situation, then the leadership and care of the parents become oppression. And I hope we don't go to that far. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Khizar Sen from Knoxville, Iowa. It's a small town in Iowa. I just have a small comment. I'd like to commend both the brother and the sister on their views on Islam. I believe it's important for us to implore and find out our own religion for ourselves, but also to explore and visit the synagogues and the churches and see what the other religions are saying. Not only about us, but how they feel that the human should interact with God. We're living in a heterogeneous society. I think we should not build a cocoon for ourselves and just keep our own ideas to ourselves, but to visit the various subcultures in the States and check them out as well. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. I think we'll give the 1-minute comments to both of the speakers and we'll conclude. Sister Inayat.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Excuse me. Basically, there's just 2 points I want to say, really briefly. One is that please, parents, even though we may be young, we know things and we're not stupid. Please respect our judgments and respect what we say, and please try to understand what we go through. And youth, please respect your parents. That's one of your duties in Islam. Do not look down upon them because maybe they don't understand. You have to work with each other, and we have to both give respect to each other.
Okay, just a comment on what the brother was saying. That there's nothing wrong, and it's good, in fact, to go and explore different religions. But at the same time, I think we should explore our own religion a little bit too, because there's a lot of things that Islam has to offer. And people, if you're sincere, you'll find a lot of answers inside Islam for a lot of things that you're looking for. I could go on at ends, I guess, about the greatness of the religion. But it is very important, though, living in this society, I think, to get to know the other cultures as well. Prophet Nuh, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the Quran, when he began his propagation of the message, he didn't start by saying, Allah is one. The very first word he used in the Quran when he began his message was Ya Qawmi, O my people. You know, Inni Rasul, he begins by saying, O my people. In other words, he understands the people. He knows what's inside their minds. He knows how they live. He knows how they think. It's not like he was some artificial person who came and said, okay, this is what you have to do now. They knew him, he knew them, he understood them. And so it is important to get to know the other communities and so on. And in fact, if someone, chooses not to accept Islam after you've explained it to him, it doesn't mean you become an enemy or something like that to him. It's good to have this good understanding with different people. That's the tolerance that Islam has taught.
Okay, now there is some important announcement about the programs. Inshallah, right after the announcements, program will conclude. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. Inshallah, the next session will be at 4:45, approximately 25 minutes from now, in this hall, Hall C, and the topic is developments in the Muslim world. Inshallah, there'll be talk about what's happening currently in Bosnia, in Palestine, Somalia, Algeria, Kashmir, just to name a few of the. So inshallah, everybody is urged to come back, and then that will be followed by the Asr Salah, Salatul Asr for the Muqim, by dinner, and then Salatul Maghrib, and after Maghrib at 8:30 would be the keynote addresses here once again in this hall. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.